Kia ora everyone, my name is Ngari, and as mentioned before, I'm an honours student doing spatial design. This is actually the first time I've ever presented in postgraduate, so I'm a wee bit nervous. I'm working under the supervision of Eugene Chua and Albert Rafidi, and the cluster group I'm working in concentrates on looking at the Auckland War Memorial Museum. The working title of my project is Beyond the Glass Case, Reimagining a Pacific Portrayal. And my project gravitates towards exploring performance and labeling and considering how these methods can prove to be problematic in that they create a false understanding and often contribute to the image of cultural stereotypes such as the noble savage, the heathen, the dusky maiden, and the reborn Christian. So this is just a little poem that I wrote in response to first visiting the museum. So I'd heard they put my people in there, I'd read, I'd find my culture in there. In there, in a great big house in a little square section. In there, in a great glass box with a little slip of paper. In there was a great big feet shown by little aged ads. In there were great big people in a little dark corner. In there was a great grand ocean in a little room. In there, this is the way I found my culture. In there, this is the way I found my people. So my redefined research question asks us, in what way could a video installation be used to highlight and establish a proper or true understanding of a Pacific artifact and the culture it belongs to? So as mentioned, my project specifically considers and proposes reimagining, reimaging, and representing artifacts and collections within the Pacific Masterpieces and the Pacific Lifeways galleries within the Auckland Museum. So largely due to space limitations, the traditional methods of displaying in glass cases in positions that highlight their formal properties suspended in light and held in space have to date proven the most effective. However, from an indigenous perspective, such display methods just as efficiently decontextualize and decolonize cultures. So I'm interested in seeing how, if, say here's an artifact, this is how it was used. You put it into a glass case, you have light shown upon it. The way it's portrayed, the way it's projected, gives the audience a specific view of how the museum would prefer you to see the object, like all these patterns and stuff. But it doesn't give you a true sense of how the object was used and the importance that it still has to existing cultures today. So this project of mine is an ongoing project that started as an undergraduate. So my initial research question was, how can an existing collection of artifacts be presented in a way that best contextualizes the culture it represents? As I've mentioned, I was interested in how can this be said, how can an artifact be portrayed as being culturally relevant? So in an attempt to answer my research question, my project intends to explore and develop contemporary alternatives that reimagine and rework the culture of museum display and showcase our artifacts as belonging to an existing culture and people. The intention is to present our artifacts and in turn our cultures in ways that acknowledge our people and communities as the vibrant and prosperous entities that they still are. These are snaps of the galleries and photographs of artifacts that I feel could have so much more depth if they were presented a different way, or if different aspects of the artifact were presented. Here are some iterations that I've worked on throughout the year. There's still shots of them. And with these ones, I'm looking at performance and how, if you highlight a certain aspect of a performance, it could have so much more meaning than if it were just a flat transparent. These are screen grabs from some of the films I've done. And this is a quick clip of my most recent iteration. Okay. Seems like I smashed through that a lot quicker than I thought I would. If anyone would like to ask questions while this is playing, because it goes on for a while and it's silent, so I'll be open to attempting to answer them.
How many Pacific people are employed in the museum installation team?
Oh, actually, I don't actually have a proper answer for that, but they are running a very exciting Pacific Awareness Program where they're finding different ways of involving Pacific Island communities, and that's headed by a Māori, and she has an excellent team of Pacific peoples, but I'm not sure the exact number of the staff members there.
They are in consultation?
Yes, they are. It's so they've created an opportunity for Pacific Island communities within Auckland to come into the museum, view their artifacts, consider how their stories could be better told.
So they're listening to you?
Yeah, I've managed to sit in on a few of theirs. So I'm Cook Island, and at the moment they're going through the Cook Island artifacts. So I've managed to sit in on them, and it's really, it's humbling and alarming at the same time, in that even I don't know a lot of the stories that are being told. And I think the trick is just how do they present it? Because a lot of the time they're like, oh, we have these stories, there's these interactive ways we can present it, but there isn't actually like a reconsideration of a presentation way.
Right.
Yeah. I hope that semi answers your question. Yes.
So your videos are silent. Are you looking at incorporating audio elements because it's sort of oral?
Yes, gradually. So the first slide that came up with the sound when I came up, that was one of my earlier iterations, and I was working with sound. But as the project went along, I decided to put sound aside for the time being and just look at visual aspects. So with this one, it's performances, and I decided to see, because a lot of the time sound's a big contributor to Pacific Island performances. So I thought, how would this change if it were silent? Like, does it flatten it? Does it project it more? Yeah, so hopefully I'm aiming at working towards incorporating sound again. I just haven't narrowed down to like what soundscape I'd use.
Yeah, and then maybe you're getting into having to wear headphones because you've got the whole thing of being in the museum and the...
Yeah, and that's an excellent idea.
Thing about it.
Thanks.
What's your current stance in relation to the museum, Tara? Just in terms of going back to Lady's question over there. Are you seeing yourself? Currently, we've had conversations about this in the past, but at the current moment, just thinking your thoughts when it developed, do you think of yourself now as working within what the museum is already doing, just trying to devise ways of exhibition, and on the other hand, the sort of Western modes of exhibition are so entrenched, it's really hard to do anything else.
Yeah. So,
or do you see yourself as working outside of that?
When I first started the project, I was like, nope, the museum's doing something bad. Nope, they're doing this. They're putting our culture behind the glass case. But as I've like started to work more with the museum, I've kind of come to reconsider that a lot of the time, some of our artifacts won't be as well preserved. I mean, I actually sat on a presentation, and the guy said, as much as we want to, Cook Islanders want to come to the museum and demand our artifacts be given back, the reality is that we don't have the facilities to preserve the artifacts. And I think I see myself as more as working maybe with the museum. Yeah, so I don't necessarily want to create an installation that says, no, this is ultimately bad. What I want to create is like an alternative way of looking at an artifact or a culture. Does that answer your question? Thanks. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.